Hello, I'm Nader Yusupov, and this is an episode of Leaders and Engineers. Today we're broadcasting from Finland. And today our guest is an expert in space technology and remote sensing for Earth observation. He's a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Physics and Remote Sensing, Doctor of Science in Space Technology and Remote Sensing, awarded with distinction, with about 30 years of experience in researching and leading research in space technology and remote sensing. He authored and co-authored more than 300 science publications on topics of microwave Earth observation, remote sensing, and nanosatellites. His publications were cited in other research papers more than 2,000 times, with a Hirsch index of 24. He's a member of the Finnish National Committee on Space Research, the chairperson of the Finnish National Committee of International Union of Radio Science, member of Finnish Center of Excellence in Research of Sustainable Space, and the chair and the co-chair of many national and international conferences. Also, he is a recipient of Finnish Engineering Award for creating an entire space technology sector in Finland and producing a number of new generation space technology experts. He launched the first Finnish satellite called Aalto-1. He also helped to spin off many space technology companies, such as ISI and Reactor Space Lab, to name few. He is living in Finland, and he's currently an assistant professor of electrical engineering with the Department of Electronics and Nanoengineering, School of Electrical Engineering at Aalto University. And also he is a senior advisor at the Arctic Astronautics. Please meet Dr. Jaan Praks.
Hello, everybody.
How should I refer to you?
I mean, you can say Jaan. It's totally all right.
Great. So many titles and so many achievements, but that's cool that I can just call you Jaan.
Yes, because still I sign all my emails as with my first name, and I'm really comfortable with that. So it's one name to stick for whole life, and I think it works.
How do your students usually or other people call you?
We are having rather flat hierarchy in Finland in most of the teams, and in my research team, people actually call me by my first name. So it's I'm Jaan.
So Jaan, how do you do?
I'm doing fine. Yes, now spring is starting. Sun is already rather high in Finland. The mood is better than during the darkest time of the winter. And yeah, we're doing great.
How much of that you can enjoy, or you're so busy with being in the labs preparing for the next launch? And
yeah, that's true. Yes, a lot of time, of course, is used here at the university and in the lab. But nevertheless, for example, last week I was taking off and was snowboarding.
Oh.
So occasionally, from time to time, I'm also trying to keep my physique in condition and enjoy some sports and hobbies as well.
That's great. I see you being a role model in the work-life balance.
Trying to keep myself sane. It's you need to have something which is grounding your stress, and I have a couple of hobbies and a little bit of sports, and I think this is a balance is needed in order to achieve what you want.
Great. Well, now I suggest we try something different. And that different is called the mock-up of the job interview.
All right.
I believe with your experience it will be especially interesting. And being 30 years, with more than about 30 years of experience, going again to the job interview. But nevertheless, the idea is that we try, and we imagine that there is some company. The company doesn't exist, and the product also doesn't exist, or it's imaginary product, and that you're applying there for a leadership position, but not like the manager of finance or this kind of thing, but leadership in engineering, in research. And we'll have this job interview, then I'll say the job interview is over, and time for feedback.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay. sounds interesting. Never have experienced something like this in a podcast, but let's try.
Great. Hello, Jaan. Thank you for applying for a position in our company.
Yeah, happy to be here, and I'm really enthusiastic about this offering.
Great to hear that. And to tell what we are doing and the product that we're producing, the product is when there is a rain and you want to just for fun shoot someone with the kind of water gun, you can just use this water rain and basically try to shoot to everyone walking around, to some random people with a water gun, and have fun. And you will see this on your screens to understand better what I'm talking about, but I will show right now to Jan. So there is basically a gun here, and people having fun, playing.
All right. That sounds like an interesting product.
Great. And my first question would be, why have you decided to apply for this position?
Yes, let's put it like this. I like to have fun, and I enjoy your attitude towards innovation. So you are fearlessly experimenting with new ideas, and this is a novel, maybe a bit unexpected idea, and this really excites me.
Great to hear that. And if we go back to more about your experience and about your career, and by the way, very impressive career work experience and educational experience, as I could see from your LinkedIn. And not only LinkedIn, you're quite famous all over the internet. I was jumping from the one website to another website, and I eventually came across your CV on the University of Helsinki website. I don't know if they're supposed to share, but that was much more detailed than your LinkedIn, and that really helped me to understand better about your background. But before we go to your very long career path and this journey to school, which you, by the way, completed with the silver medal, when at school, did you already know that you will be in the engineering or research or in the remote sensing?
Definitely not. And I was a restless young guy, and I knew that I would like to go to university. And I had in mind two specific options. One was physics, and another one was biology. And my desire was to understand how the world works. But I never wanted to become an astronaut. And I have never had a very strong, let's say, belief or desire to be specifically somebody. And the fact that I'm working with space and remote sensing is partly accident. It's just like things happen in life, and then you will be settling on one topic which is interesting, which is coming up, and then you work with it.
But at which point you pick this path and you realize, okay, I'm sticking to that?
And I was picking physics pretty early, and I was already, I think, in secondary school inclined towards physics more than biology, because perhaps physics was simpler and sort of more well-defined. And that's why I was going with physics. My physics grades were also good, and it was rather easy path to physics of University of Tartu in Estonia. And there I started with my environmental physics studies, and it started there.
What happened to biology?
Biology is interesting, and biology is still close to my heart. And with remote sensing, I have been mostly remote sensing like northern environments, forests, trees. It's part of the biosphere, and I'm trying to keep myself also well informed what is happening with the biosphere and also our civilization, which is also a sort of biological phenomena, sort of. But yes, it's rather a hobby than an actual profession.
So instead of doing biology in the lab, you are looking at biology from space.
That is true, yes. Yes, this is my approach to biology.
Well, great. And if we speak about remote sensing, some people know, some people maybe don't know. In simple terms, could you please explain what is it about?
Yeah, remote sensing is really, would say, a topic in science, in applied science, where you try to understand what do you see with different kind of instruments, from airplanes, from satellites, sometimes from helicopters, different kind of platforms, which are further away from the objects. Usually you see it by means of electromagnetic radiation, that means light, infrared radiation, and also microwave radiation like radar images and so on. The central problem of remote sensing is that you measure reflectance or color of the objects or the shapes of the objects, but you would like to know something else. You would like to know how old is the forest, how tall are the trees, how much chlorophyll you have in the grass, how much chlorophyll you have in the water, and so on. So in order to get those parameters out from these images you are getting from space or from airplanes, you have to apply different kind of models and have a deep knowledge and understanding what is happening to this radiation during the voyage from this target to your instrument. And yeah, this is remote sensing. This is what we do, trying to get as good tree height estimates from space as possible.
So in this remote sensing, if I understand correctly, there are two parts: this instrument, measurement, the instrument itself, and then the analytics tool, what you do with this data. Where is more weight, more on the instrument development, improving that one, or more on the processing?
I have been mostly on more on a processing and modeling side. I have been also involved a bit with the instrument side, so I would say I'm involved in the whole chain from analytics to actual instrument as well. But I would consider myself more as a radar analytics expert rather than the instrument expert. And my own expertise area is going into the microwave Earth observation. That means instead of the light, which has a very, very small wavelength and you can see really sharp images, with microwaves which have wavelength of tens of centimeters or at least several centimeters, you cannot form as detailed images often, but you can see through the clouds. And my expertise area is interpreting these images, what you can see and what you can measure with different kind of microwave instruments.
Okay. In this case, if it's more on the side of processing and analytics, how much do you use AI?
Yeah, AI is coming very strongly to this field. And it comes to many applied fields where we have been before using a really significant effort to find the connection to mathematical formula, how this reflectance of the target is turned into the concentration of chlorophyll, for example. And nowadays, especially for the applications and commercial applications, often we are getting the easier result when we are not even trying to understand what is happening there. We just teach the AI algorithm to pick certain weak signals from other signals there and apply AI directly to receive the information we need. This is great thing because usually we get these parameters out of satellite images in a higher accuracy, faster, cheaper, and we don't need to fiddle with the small parameters and understanding. On the other side, we are also partly losing the understanding, like why these things happen, what is the exact physics there. But we have researched this. We mostly know what is happening there anyhow. So in a production sense, I think using the AI is a very good idea. And it's really taking off. Like there are many startups, many big companies who are using AI for retrieving the interesting information from satellite images with a higher accuracy than never before.
Great. And I don't know if you heard about this ChatGPT. It's kind of...
Of course I did. Yeah, of course I did.
Have you used it?
Of course I have. Yes, of course. And this is a very interesting development, of course, and it has interesting consequences. For example, in university world, when this kind of essay type of text is getting very cheap, and students can use a totally new tool to generate text with a large amounts. And now we are already thinking like how to use this tool in teaching, but also how we should test the student knowledge, because the student can easily generate large amount of text, which is rather well written, even has more or less accurate facts, or at least close. And essays and this kind of text answers have been used a lot in examinations and in return boxes of different kind of homeworks. And this is starting to be pointless now. So AI is coming and changing our world, and ChatGPT has a great impact, for example, to education.
There was a comment from the Noam Chomsky, but he was more on the side of these negative implications towards education. That basically students can just use this tool to generate the answers instead of writing and thinking themselves. Do you see this risk, and do you know how to handle that one?
I don't have answers. I know definitely that this technology has been developing so fast that it's here to stay. And our students who are graduating now might still be in a working life in 2070. We cannot even imagine what kind of world we're going to have then. But in coming decades, this kind of AI-assisted processes are going to take off, and a lot of our engineers are going to work with the help of AI. They need to use this tool because it's very productive. You can create a lot of things. How to teach this and how to keep the students also knowledgeable about the world itself. It's a very interesting question. Definitely, we cannot use the old teaching methods. What happened is that the text is getting very cheap, and let's say a good student is also very cheap, and you can generate a lot of like average things with absolutely no price, and it might lead into the situation where some people don't need to learn to write a logical text anymore. But I'm not afraid that smart people would somehow disappear from the world. But there's going to be a certain divide, a new type of divide, that some people start to do something else and maybe not working with text anymore because text is so cheap and the computers can generate beautiful text anyhow.
Can it be compared to the emergence of this Google search? when nowadays instead of memorizing, people say, well, why do I need to remember if I can Google and
Definitely, and I mean, like the whole history of civilization is getting more dependent on the technology. We are very, very dependent on the technology. It's another layer of dependency, and definitely our minds and creation processes will be augmented with AI. That's already visible now.
And continuing on the topic of students, you had a lot. I am afraid to tell the number, how many you supervised, and even more, how many went through your courses. But let's say if we take those who you supervised, have you had difficult students among them and with whom you had conflicts?
I would not say that I think I haven't had really conflicts. I have supervised or co-supervised around 50 master theses and about the same amount of bachelor theses. Some of the people are the same. And then also around 6-7 doctoral theses. I really haven't had like real conflicts there. So yes, maybe it's my problem that I don't have a proper conflicts with people.
But if you think that you didn't have conflicts, maybe because you did something preventive which didn't lead to this, what are those actions that you have taken?
I think I have been also developing myself and changing myself a lot during these years. Like been like in the field for decades. But maybe this is a personality. I am not looking for conflicts, and I'm sort of not seeing the world through the conflicts. But it's really difficult to say. Yeah. I just don't like conflicts, and that's why I'm trying to avoid them.
So, as based on what you say, you were successful so far in that.
So far, I'm yes, I think I have been lucky not to have bad conflicts during my career.
And you mentioned you supervise bachelor, master, and doctoral students. What's the main difference in your approach with this different group of students?
Yes, you are. If you start with bachelors, then bachelor thesis is rather short and shallow, I would even say. And also your contact with the student is a bit more remote. And further you go, the deeper the connection and the actual sort of master and apprentice relation grows. And a master thesis is already a very serious attempt and a serious work, and you already like form an actual relation with a student, and you feel that you can give something, you can help to create something new, and you can help to create a thesis, which is the output of this process. But when you go to a doctoral thesis, then doctoral thesis, of course, has you are working with a doctoral candidate, and the doctoral candidate is already a sort of a creative person at your level, but you have more experience on many things. And it's more sort of like equal footing working, picking up the ideas, developing them further, and then developing a sort of much longer and stronger relation with this person or scientist, I would say. And also doctoral thesis process takes several years, 4, 5, sometimes 6 years. And of course you are becoming a close, sometimes even friends with your students, and then really enjoying that they have been like achieving the result, achieving the PhD degree, for example.
About this relationship forming relationship with students. On one hand, there is this kind of empathy and humanness, which leading to certain probably attachment. Do you feel bad? You like expect that maybe the person would stay postdoc, but do you feel bad the person didn't stay and living? How do you go through that?
Yes, I mean, it's still a professional, it's still work, and from time to time, I have to remind myself that we at Aalto, we are a university, we're a school. So I'm really trying to keep the attitude where I will help these young people to find their way and be successful. And from the beginning, I'm trying to be in this project with attitude that they would graduate and go away, because this is their goal, this is my goal. I don't want to keep them here forever. So I think this is important, that I know that this is a school and my goal is to help them to graduate.
Maybe it's a bit different when it's in the setup of university. But could you imagine if you're in the company, in the business, and you're putting so much effort and investing into an employee, and then that person is leaving? Will we be also letting the person so easy to go? Or
it's sometimes difficult even in university, although we are school, and definitely the managing a research group is a difficult task sometimes, because you have unique skills. You have people who are researching some new area, getting good in this, publishing a couple of papers, then getting even better and publishing a couple of papers more, and then they are actually ready to be expert in this field and actually starting to do really interesting things. And then they have to leave, and then they graduate. And of course, this is not, it's from personal perspective, it's actually not so difficult. It's rather more difficult in professional settings, because your direction in research have been already influenced by this successful branch of your research, which is carried out by this candidate. And then you have to change it, used a bit, because now you have new persons coming with a bit different profile. I believe that this is much more difficult in the business settings, but on the other hand, in the business world, it's a bit more anonymous as well. And in a business setting, you have sort of like a contribution and salary, but in a university, although you're getting salary as well, there are many other factors which keep you in this research rather than salary. So yeah, it's a complicated landscape.
And if going back to your LinkedIn page, which is really, really great, maybe not so detailed as your CV.
Not at all detailed. So I have been actually neglecting quite a bit my LinkedIn page, and I have a lot of connections, but I have really not, let's say, sold myself or like advertised myself properly in LinkedIn, because I have been so much submerged into the Aalto University research, and haven't been like feeling the need and urge to keep up my front page in LinkedIn.
But I don't know if it's like not relevant and all information, but what I noticed that you follow Richard Branson. And why is that? What inspired you?
I mean, yes, a couple of space guys. It was like sometimes cool to know what they are doing, and at some point he was dealing with interesting topics, and I was like clicking the checkbox that yes, I would like to see what he's up to at the moment. But I'm not a very great social network user at the moment, so I would say it's it's already outdated my sort of LinkedIn follower profile and also my own profile there.
But let's say if you were to update and then you have this choice from to follow, will you follow Elon Musk?
Of course. I mean, like, Elon Musk is a really interesting guy, and there's a lot of things happening in the world, what Elon Musk is doing, and he has really big influence on things. And it's not even the question of do I like these things, what he's doing, or I just need to know, because so many things what he's doing has a big influence, shaping also my world, and I just need to know.
It's also, I noticed that you're a professor of electrical engineering, and I wonder, the remote sensing, does it fall under the remit of electrical engineering, or it's actually another domain?
So it is remote sensing itself, or by itself, it depends on the heritage and history of the university where it belongs to. At Aalto University, we don't have geophysics. Sometimes in some universities, remote sensing is part of geophysics. In some departments in universities, it might be even in a communication department and so on. So it depends very much. So it is an existing field of research, but it's not so well defined. At the same thing happens with space technology. In some universities in the world, space technology is under mechanical engineering. In some universities, it's under the aerospace. In some universities, under electrical engineering, even civil engineering. And you need all these skills in order to build a satellite. So that's why this classification is often not really important.
Also on the, well, luckily it was not only on the LinkedIn, but also on the Aalto webpage, the university where you are currently working on. On that page, it was mentioned about those United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And what was interesting that there were some of those where it was mentioned that you are contributing with your research. And can we go one by one and you could elaborate?
I can try.
The first one is zero hunger. How do you help to achieve this goal of zero hunger?
Yes. So, of course, my contribution is to giving the education and tools to the next generation to deal with problems and find out what the problems are. Remote sensing is increasingly important topic in precision agriculture. So the food is produced from the soil under the current climate with a biosphere from the solar energy, and all this setting is controlled or visible from space, and you really see what you need to do, what is happening there, and so on. So all the future precision agriculture and food production will, and already nowadays using a lot of remote sensing tools, including radars. And that's why I'm believing that contributing to the remote sensing tools helps us to grow more and better food for humankind on the planet.
The other one is good health and well-being.
Good health and well-being is more like if you want to run a research group, of course, then you have to also keep in mind that your research group as well and your colleagues need to be in good health and well-being. But again, satellites, navigation, remote sensing are contributing to the overall safety as a navigation signal, emergency signals, and so on. So this is also contributing to health and well-being as well.
you mentioned half jokingly but half seriously about well-being in your team, that you are contributing from that sense, and this is indeed actually very important. And I would like to ask, how do you motivate your team?
Being cheerful, being optimistic myself. I think this is the way. It's a large question how interesting you can make your area and how enthusiastic you are yourself about the research and the future. It's very, very difficult to sort of tell what exactly I do. I don't know. It's a sort of personality thing, but yeah, I hope I can motivate my students, and they are not only wanting to graduate, but they are also wanting to do something great in the future with their lives.
If we talk about the risks, and I assume in the space technology there are lots of risks. What are the biggest risks you have taken in the recent years?
Recent years, I mean, all the satellite projects are a great risk for researcher life, and I have been leading many satellite projects, including the other one project, which became the first satellite of Finland. Starting with this kind of project in a situation where your workforce was mostly students, and you are consuming a lot of money, and you have no idea how it turns out. Does it work properly or not? It's so easy to make a small mistake, and not everything is in your hands, is always a great risk. I would say my satellite projects are the greatest risk I have been taking, and still we are building the satellites, and every new project is a new risk once again. And yeah, if the satellites are not working, then it is potentially a big problem for me as well.
Imagine this situation where there is a project and there are lots of risks, but if it's done, then the outcome is really great. So it can, on the balance scale, it's can basically compensate for those risks. But imagine the situation in this scenario that if the project fails, then you are blamed that you didn't account for the risks, and you are blamed. But if project is outcome, then someone else is getting all the credits. How would you improve the situation? How would you change that?
I mean, of course, the credit part is the credits should go also to the same person. I mean, this situation you are describing is not uncommon in the real world, and often this happens actually. But of course, making people more responsible what they do, and also delivering the fame and potentially economical benefits to these people who are taking the risk. This is a normal, like, let's say, how normal world actually works. And somebody will always take some risks, and somebody will fail, somebody will succeed, and this is how we are getting forward as a humankind.
And but have you had these situations where you propose something really great, those great ideas, and then someone takes credit, starts kind of implying that the idea came not from you but from the person?
Of course, but it's also, to be honest, it's more difficult than that. It's often the great ideas are often difficult to identify where exactly they are coming from. And I actually don't believe that a single person is responsible for a single great idea. Maxwell was not inventing Maxwell equations, and Einstein was not the first one who was working with this kind of like general relativistic theory or the curvature and that geometry of the world. Although we are giving credits for this work for these people, ideas are hanging somehow in the air. People are, if the time is ripe and certain topics coming up to many people, and then people start to combine them, and also the interaction with these people who are talking about these ideas is really important part in this. That's why it's not always even fair to give an idea to a single person. And it has a sort of two-sided problem. One is that, yes, you might be first with suggesting something, or one of the first with certain groups there. Another part is actually our society sort of obsessed of attributing certain ideas to certain names because it's easy. So we tell something about electromagnetic waves, and everybody say like Maxwell was inventing them, which is not true. So yeah, it's a more complicated problem. But of course, sometimes it feels unfair that a certain idea is not attributed to you. But sometimes it also might feel somehow unfair that some idea is attributed to you, because actually always there is more people who have been working with this idea, more people who have been like interacting in order to like make a possibility for this idea, and I'm not too dramatic about it.
Thank you for your answer. One another question I want also to ask you is, this is also related to risks, is have you had cases where you made a mistake which caused the loss of money?
Of course.
And when you realized this, how did you communicate this to to stakeholders?
Yeah, it's difficult always. I mean, finally you have to communicate. And as far as you have a hope that you can sort of correct the situation and save the day somehow, then you are not necessarily yet going to the crisis communication. But yeah, end of the day, it's always easier to start to communicate even before, when you are knowing that you are taking risks. You need to communicate even before that you might fail. And it has to be an option from the beginning. And I think this has been helped me as well.
What's the balance between underestimating and overestimating? Let's say you say, I will complete this project in June, but you're actually aiming for April. Or should be aiming for May and then to say that you will complete it in June?
Yeah. Space technology is an interesting discipline where there are certain coefficients invented, for example, for everything, and they are called margins. And if you make a schedule, you are putting margin there. You are knowing that, of course, it will be extended because of the unknown reasons or because of the known reasons. Or yeah, you have like known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns, and all of them are affecting your progress. And people are notably bad in order to estimate their own schedules and progress. So that's why big space organizations like ESA and NASA, they have been inventing this kind of method. You systematically put padding into your schedules and budgets and mass budgets and so on and so on. Everywhere you have a margin, and this helps then you to actually achieve things in time. And often it takes a rigorous approach to just like fix the date before you really are in trouble. And but it roots to the fact that people are actually pretty bad in assessing their own schedules and progress. However, people are much better in estimating other people's progress and giving realistic schedules when something is ready, according to the experience they had before with this type of projects. And that's why, for example, in space technology, you use reviews. You make your schedule, you apply your margins there, and then there is a review board who is going it through and saying, like, this is unrealistic. You have to put 1 year on top of this schedule, otherwise it's not going to happen. And then you have to put it. So there are many types of possibilities and heuristics how to get your schedules ready, but people are always optimistic about the schedule, including me.
Do you have often when you overestimate?
I have very often, yes. I'm a very, let's say, schedule optimistic person, and it's a tricky psychological thing. What do you estimate when you are estimating your progress? Are you estimating how fast it would take to you if you could assign all your resources and time to this particular project? Are you able to estimate the amount of distractions? Are you able to estimate all the other surprises there, and so on? So it's tricky, because the problem, the root of the problem might be that people are not estimating the actual time, but they estimating some kind of idealistic time if they would live in an ideal world, because they know how to do it, and then it looks sort of doable and short, but the real life is much more complicated.
Talking about being optimistic and in the schedules and then giving those promises, what do you think your colleagues think about you? How would they describe you, like top 3 characteristics?
I really don't know.
But if you but if you think and just kind of freaks.
I think they are sort of, I hope they consider me cheerful, optimistic, and energetic.
All positive.
I mean, yeah, and energetic people can be also a lot of fuss and problem, and optimists are really difficult to deal with I don't know, promises and schedules and so on. So maybe not always optimistic, or maybe not always positive side of this one. But yeah.
But if I ask, what do you think you need to improve those top 3 things?
About myself?
Yeah.
This is a very tricky question. I think I prefer to skip this one.
Sure, no problem. And have you had these situations where you were given feedback from your superior or from someone else, and it's not specific enough, and you don't understand, but you are told, but no, listen, you need to change, but then you don't have enough details what exactly to change? Have you had this kind of situation?
I would say actually no. But it's the situations are always a bit more complicated, and usually you know what is the problem, although you are not given the details. So I would say I have not been in this kind of situation.
But let's say imagine this case that you are the leader, you're managing the team of researchers and engineers. But then comes another manager, and being kind of subordinate, respecting subordination, this kind of things, don't go and tells directly to the person, but comes to you and says, hey, someone from my team complained about that person and said that person is something like very general. He or she said, that person is stubborn. Can you please talk to the person and tell him to listen better to other people? How would you deal with this?
Yeah, probably this comes a bit from a corporate world. Here in academic world, what we're trying to do is sort of like utilize all the resources of the personality what you can. And actually being a stubborn is a really good property of a person. So if you are sticking with a problem you are researching and you try again, and you are determined to certain direction, even if you haven't been getting positive results for a long time, other researchers paying a lot of respect because there might come something big from this kind of stubborn people. And I would say this is actually a positive thing there. And also different other kind of personality sort of features, but I'm trying to see always is not change these people, that rather than help them to find, if they are sort of my students, to find a way to utilize and like being great with this feature. And yes.
Yeah, definitely very positive, turning things into positive side. But it is, if I understand you correctly, then everything have two sides. You can turn it into positive and make it useful, and you can make it destructive.
Yes.
Great. And about imaginative question, but still important. It's imagine the situation you've been given an elephant, and you cannot sell or give it away. What will you do with that elephant?
Elephant, I have huge respect to elephants because they are so big mammals. I really respect that this kind of big animals are still existing, and they are great friends and very clever animals as well. I don't know. I would probably try to live with a elephant because elephants are just so great.
That's definitely, I think, in line with one of the United Nations sustainability goals, living in peace with different creatures and the environment. And the final question in this job interview is, what is your salary expectation?
Now, it depends on what kind of position I was applying, but
leadership position?
Yeah, I would say I am not searching for the positions for salary. It needs to be high enough that I'm like comfortable. I don't need to worry about money. But on the other hand, I really don't like work for salary. So salary is somewhere, but if I get this work, if I apply for this work, then I'm applying this work for totally other reasons than money, at least the current situation. And I expect to work with a really interesting challenges rather than like expecting a certain amount of money. I'm able to possibly, if it's really interesting, to have even a smaller salary for a while, if I need if I see that this is really important for me.
Thank you. And now we're done with job interview.
That was a long one.
Well, I hope it was interesting for you. But what are your impressions
About job interview?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, its impression is like you are going to pretty personal. So you're trying to actually find out who are you are hiring, and I think you're doing a good job. You actually find out who are these persons if you have this kind of interview. Takes a bit of time, and you were more concentrating on personality than actual achievements or knowledge or approach. Now it depends what you are looking for this job. Are you looking for a person, you know exactly what kind of personality you would have, or then you are looking for a person who has a matching qualities a person you like. And this is not necessarily always a good idea, because teams are often working better if they have different personalities inside, and not all the personalities need to be a good match with a leader. And a team can be a great team even if they have a small sort of mismatches there. So they are not always working smoothly, and there is somebody who is stubborn and like claiming that there is a something which we also need to take a look, and it's often useful.
But if we take the situation where you're looking for the leader in your team, and you receive all the information from the CV, you can see the person being there many years experience, very well experienced, and there are some publications, and from technical point of view, seems like the person is knowledgeable. But if you don't know the person, how good is that people skills or the soft skills, how good that person would be as a leader, in that case, would you ask similar questions to what I did, or differently?
Perhaps yes, but I would like to see, of course, this was sort of imagined job interview. What I really need to find out is what this person is wanting to do, determined to do, how much motivation this person has for this specific place. So if somebody has to develop something, that I would like to see that he or she already has the ideas and has the drive to create something, and has the urge and creativity to attack this problem and take forward and go somewhere. Because often it's more about the motivation than actual, let's say, skills of course matter, and then the history and everything matters, but the motivation to do things is really, really important, and sometimes underestimated.
Is it expected when the new candidate not really had a chance to have hands-on? How much motivation can you expect? I mean,
I can expect a lot of motivation. So people who haven't never been doing something, and they are really eager to go forward, and they have been let's say in my field, if somebody's there who has been always wanting to be an astronaut and is ready to go in a determined way to certain direction, usually they are making very good employees. So the motivation is really important to find out.
So in the situation where the person had definitely some projects and you can see this, but in the interview you need to understand this motivation, how will you identify the person has high motivation? The person will say, I haven't tried this one, but I'm eager to learn. I will learn. This is the signal, or...
This is one of the signals, yes. But of course, what you also will check is, what is the track record? If you have been having I'm usually hiring young people, and they don't have had so much time to go through. But if you have been having from the secondary school on already many projects, and many different, like even volunteer projects, working for some companies, perhaps a great variety of results, then I know that this is a very active person who can get things done, has a motivation and can set goals. And this kind of soft skills and self-management is really, really important in achieving things. And you sort of like, you see the general energy level from there.
And the final question I want to ask is, the person who is listening and watching us, and let's say the person is in the beginning of the journey to become an engineer or researcher, and then eventually wants to become a leader, what advice will you give to the person?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, first, figure it out. Why do you want to become a leader? I mean, what is your motivation to be a leader? Being a good engineer, getting something else done in life, like making something big, changing the world, solving a big problem. These are really good sort of goals which I can relate to. But being a leader is a tool to achieve something. Being a leader is not necessarily a goal by itself. Because why to be a leader? Why not just get things done?
Thank you. That was Professor Jaan Praks in the episode of Leaders and Engineers. Thank you for watching and listening us.
Thank you.